didn't get the Model 3 over the Model Y because it can fly. Welcome to the Cobra Pit. While many people are suggesting getting the Model Y over the Model 3, there's many compelling reasons to stick with the 3. Now they are both very similar. The Model Y took a lot of inspiration from the Model 3. Sometimes I have to take a double look to determine which one it is, the 3 or the Y. They have very similar interior, have many of the same accessories, but neither one has a powered frunk or trunk, unless you get this add-on accessory. $15% off link in the description for that cool little accessory. But there are some differences on why I chose the Model 3 over the Model Y. There's a difference in performance. The Model 3 can accelerate from 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds, while the Y can top out at 3.6 seconds. Yeah, that's slightly faster, and I don't think I can tell a difference, but those hardcore enthusiasts say that's a big difference. But technically, the Model 3 is faster. Now, I did test drive both of them, and the Model 3 handles a little bit tighter, lower to the ground. Not by much, but there is a slight advantage. Now, one of the downsides to the Model 3 is the performance model has about 16 miles less range, but overall performance wasn't a factor when it came to my decision. Another thing to think about is the availability. Now, both models take about 48 weeks to arrive, and while Model Y production is ramping up, you could get a Model 3 a lot faster going through the CPO program. Now, these are certified pre-owned, and you can find some at like 300 miles or below. So they're practically new if availability is something that really matters to you. That wasn't a factor for me either. If we move on to price, that's where a greater separation presents itself. You may have heard of the off-the-menu Model 3 for $35,000. Yes, that's an option, and yes, that's a lot cheaper than the least expensive Model Y. But let's talk about the Standard Range Plus, which is about $38,000, which is still substantially cheaper than the least expensive Model Y. But if we're going to compare apples to apples, we're going to talk about the long range models. The long range Model 3 is $47,000, and that comes with 322 miles. But the long range Model Y is $53,000, and it even has less miles at 316. Now that's the difference of $6,000, and the Model 3 gets the edge when it comes to mileage. Now, if you just want to save the most amount of money, it's an $18,000 difference when it comes to the standard range Model 3 compared to the least expensive Model Y, $18,000. Now, we are anticipating a standard range or standard range plus Model Y, but as of now, not available. The price was one of the biggest factors I took into consideration. And the deciding factor for me was the size. Now, the Model 3 is the smallest interior space of any Tesla, and I'm 6 foot tall, and it is a little more difficult for me getting in and out because it's a little bit lower. The Model Y felt a lot similar to my Chevy Bolt. Has a little more headroom, a little more knee room. It's overall more spacious, not by much though. But I had to think about it. For a daily commute, would that size matter as much? Well, the other thing I had to look at was, I already have my Model X. That was my family vehicle. I can hold 7 people in there. And that's the one I would take for extended trips. Much more spacious, much more luxurious. So I needed a daily commuter to get from A to B, and that's about it. So I have to say, was the size that important to have a bigger vehicle, a bigger secondary vehicle? And for me, it wasn't worth it. Yes, adults could fit in the back of the Model 3, but not as comfortably as they would in the Model Y. But those times I had a bigger vehicle to take those adults. So it all depends on you and what you need. Are you going to be taking adults places, more than 2 adults? Are you gonna need more space? If that's the case, you might wanna look at the Model Y. But for me, it wasn't worth it. And then I did weigh the options, and actually the sales representative at Tesla actually said, you know what? You got the Model X. You don't need the Model Y, and they are similar looking. Like the Model Y is a good mix. It's a good blend between the X and the 3. So I was like, you know what? It looks very similar. I want something completely different, and I went with the Model 3. That was probably the biggest factor when it came to me choosing the Model 3 over the Model Y. Overall, it's really up to you what's best for you and your situation, but take all these factors into consideration and don't always go with the most popular choice. You have to do what's best for you. But don't forget, Cobra told you. All right, y'all. Thanks for watching.